Hey, what's up everyone? So in this short course, I'll be showing you how you can perform CRUD operations in React and Redux Toolkit. So on the front end, we'll be using React and Redux Toolkit, and then on the back end, we'll be making use of an existing Node.js and MongoDB backend. So in the next section, I'll show you how you can set up the backend, and also I'll give you access to the starter files and so on, okay? So that we can focus on Redux Toolkit in this particular short course. So Redux Toolkit is now considered as the standard way of working with Redux, so it's good to know how to perform CRUD operations in Redux Toolkit. And in this short course, we'll be working on a simple to-do app, and I consider a to-do app as a good way of learning the basics, and then you can take the knowledge that you learned from this short course to the next level by creating even more complex applications. So let's go ahead and I'll show you the demo of the application that we'll be working on. So as you can see, we have a title there, to do app, and then we have an input field to like enter a task, and then we have a button to submit that task. So let's say right here we will code React. Now when I click add task, this task will be added to the database, and then we'll be able to like get the task back and display it on the UI, and also we'll be able to show a nice message that that task was added to the database. So let me just click add task, it's processing, and task added. So we have a nice message right there, and then right here we now have our task called React added a few seconds ago. And now for our task, we have an update button and a delete button. Now when I click update, this code React will be out of field on our form right here, and then we'll change the text for our button from add task to update task. So let's click update, and now we have code React right there out of field, and then we have update task now instead of add task. So we are making use of the same input field and the button. We are just changing the text and value of our input field depending on whether we are adding a new task or whether we are updating a task. So let's update this. So I'll say code React and RTK. So RTK stands for Redux Toolkit, and when I click update task, it's processing, and now we have task updated. And then now right here you can see code React and RTK, and it was added a minute ago. That is when the task was created. So you can also have like a property for updated date, so that you can see when it was updated. So yeah, that is like the next level that you can take this up to. But we also have a delete button right here. So when I click this delete button, we should like delete the task from the database. So when I click delete, the task is deleted, and now you can see we have a warning right there, because you know destroying data is considered like a bad thing, and it's saying a task was deleted. And also our backend is performing some data validation using Joy, and we'll be taking a look at the code, although we won't go into too much details on it. We'll be taking a look at it, and then we'll be focusing more on Redux Toolkit. But if you wish to learn like how to create the backend APIs from scratch, then I'll also pin a video at the description section below, which you can use to learn how to create the backend in a step-by-step manner. But when I try to add an empty task right here, you'll see that task is not allowed to be empty. So this error message is coming from the backend, okay? But you can also like perform form data validation on the front end, because that is a bit fast. This will take some time to come back because it has to communicate the backend and receive a response. But yeah, the focus of this particular project is to run Redux Toolkit, so we won't focus too much on data validation and so on, okay? So this is the application that we are going to work on. It's simple and fun. So if I say like code React again and we add, so it will add the task, and when I refresh, we should not lose the data, because the data is available on MongoDB database, which is really cool. So yeah, this is it for this section, and I'll see you on the next section where I'll give you access to the starter files, and we will also set up the backend for our app right here. So I'll see you in the next one. So in this section, I want to show you how you can get access to the starter files for this short course. And the starter files has a complete CRUD operation Node.js backend, and also we have a UI React template. And the reason why we have these starter files is so that we can be able to focus on CRUD operations in Redux Toolkit. Okay, so if you don't have any knowledge in React, I recommend that you go for a crash course in React, and I already have one on the channel. So if you wish to learn from me, I'll leave a link at the description section below to a React tutorial for absolute beginners, and then after that you can come to this particular short course to run CRUD operations in Redux Toolkit. And then for the backend, I will just be taking a look at the APIs, how they are implemented, but we won't create them from scratch. All we will do, we'll connect our backend to a MongoDB database, and then we'll make use of it on the front end using React and Redux Toolkit. Okay, cool. So I have the code already on my GitHub account, and I'll leave a link to this particular repository at the description section below, and I'll call it RTK CRUD starter files so that you can easily identify it. Okay, so RTK here stands for Redux Toolkit, so it's just a short form for it. Okay, so once you get to this particular page, you have several ways in which you can get the code into your machine. You can clone this particular repository into your machine, or you can download the code as zip, and then you'll unzip so that you get access to the starter files. Okay, so in this case, what I'll do, I'll just copy this link, and then I'll clone this repository into my machine from GitHub. Okay, so I'll just open this particular folder right here called YouTube. I had already prepared it for this, and I'll click on the path here on Windows, and I'll type cmd and hit enter. This will open that path on my terminal or on my command prompt. Okay, and then I can zoom a little bit so that you can see what I am doing. So let me minimize this one just to see the entire screen like this. So what you will do to clone this, you'll need to type git clone, and I expect you to also have some basic Git and GitHub knowledge. So for you to git clone, you need to have Git installed in your machine. Okay, so if you run this command and it doesn't work, know that maybe you haven't installed Git in your machine. And if you don't have any knowledge in Git and GitHub, I recommend for you to look for a crash course and then come back here so that you understand what is happening. So git clone, and then you paste that link right here, and I hit enter. This will clone the files on my machine right here, and it will be pretty fast because the files are not too much. And there we go. Now when I minimize this, you'll see that we have RTK CRUD starter files, and you can name this folder if you want. Okay, so now that we are working on it, we can rename it to RTK CRUD like that. Okay, and then when I open this file, you see we have our backend and our front end, and also we have this .git folder right here. In most PC or machine, it might be hidden. For you to view it on Windows, you need to go to view at the top, and then you'll check right here hidden items so that you can see this .git. So if you want to push this application to your own GitHub repository, you need to get rid of this .git folder, because this is configured with my GitHub account, and since you don't have access to my GitHub account, you can't push the code there. So what you need to do is to click on this and then just delete it. So I'll click on it and delete. And what you can do now is to initialize a new Git repository, and then commit your changes and link to GitHub and push them there. Okay, so I needed to show you that just in case. Okay, and then we need to open our application here on Visual Studio Code. So to do that, I'll come back right here. We need to go to that directory, so I'll say cd and then rtk-crud. So we renamed our folder to this name. So when I hit enter, now we are inside our folder, and then we can open it with Visual Studio Code, which is my preferred code editor, using this command code space and a period or a full stop, and then you hit enter. So if you have VS Code or Visual Studio Code installed in your machine, this folder should open on Visual Studio Code. Okay, so the app has opened on Visual Studio Code. You can see RTK CRUD, and we have backend and frontend right here. Now when I expand frontend, you'll see we have some files. When I open package.json file, right here you can see the dependencies that we will be using in this particular project. Okay, so we have material UI right here, and then we have Redux Toolkit right here, and then we have Axios for making HTTP requests. We have Moment for formatting the dates. We have React Redux for connecting Redux and React, or for binding them together. And then we have Emotions React and Emotion Styled. So these were requirements for Material UI for some reasons. Okay, so I'm using Material UI for some components like the messages, the buttons, and so on. Okay, so to install these dependencies, since we don't have them installed, what you need to do is to go now into frontend. So we need to now enter into frontend by saying cd front end, hit enter. Now we are inside the frontend. To install them, you just need to learn npm I for install. That is a short form for install, and you need to have Node.js installed in your machine. So I expect you to already know this. Okay, so when I hit enter, those dependencies will now be installed on our front end, and we need to do a similar thing on our backend. Okay, so I'll leave this running, and then I'll come back to Visual Studio Code, and I'll minimize the front end, close this one to just avoid confusion. Then I'll open the backend. In the backend, we also have a package.json file. And for the backend, these are the dependencies. We have cos for close origin resource sharing. We have .env for reading environment variables. We have express for the creation of APIs. We have joy for data validation, mongoose to work with MongoDB, and nodemon. So nodemon allows us to automatically run the project whenever we make a change. So we won't be going too much into backend. If you want to learn how to create CRUD operations from scratch, then I'll leave a link at the description section below. This course focuses only on CRUD operations in Redux Toolkit. Okay, so cool. So to install these dependencies on the backend, we can use the inbuilt Visual Studio Code terminal. So I can click here at the top. You can't see it, but we have terminal at the top, and then I will click new terminal, and it will open at the bottom here. Okay, so I'll give it time for it to open, and then I'll show you how to install the dependencies. Actually, it's just a similar way like we did in our front end. So yeah, so now we have the terminal opened here on Visual Studio Code, and you can see we are now on RTK CRUD, our project right here. So we need to enter into backend right here. So I'll say cd and then backend. So include the space right there. And then when I hit enter, now we should get inside our backend project, which is our Node.js project. Now we are inside the backend. Now to install the dependencies, all you need to do is to learn npm I like we did in React. So when I click enter, this will install all the dependencies for our backend. That is cos.env, express, joy, mongoose, and nodemon. Okay, so I'll leave this to complete, and hopefully you'll be doing the same. And then I'll see you on the next section, where we'll take a closer look at the backend, and we will connect the backend to a MongoDB database. Okay, so I'll see you in the next one. So my dependencies has completed to install, both for the backend right here and for the front end on the terminal right here. Okay, and now in this section I want to show you how you can connect your backend to a MongoDB database. Okay, so as I told you, we have a complete backend, and we can take a look at some of the files right here before we even like connect it to the database. So the root of the application is index.js. Okay, and I can zoom out a little bit so that I can have like more space to work with right here, and hopefully you'll also be seeing what I'm doing. I'll also minimize that, and this is the root of the application. This is where we are configuring .env file. This is where we are creating an express app, and then we are configuring JSON so that can like pass JSON data to the body of the request. We are configuring CORS. So these are now middlewares. When you see app.use, know that these are middlewares. And then right here we are bringing in our to-dos route, and we'll be seeing the to-dos APIs in a minute. And then right here we just have a basic route just to welcome someone to the API or the backend or something. And then right here is where we are like connecting to the database. So here we are creating a Node.js server, and then right here we are connecting to Mongo's database. And you can see in our connect right here we have URI, and it's reading the URI from an environment variable. Okay, so when we come to this .env.example, this here we have atlas underscore URI, and then replace with atlas connection string. So what we need from MongoDB is a connection string, and then we will create a .env file and add this kind of code. Okay, so this is just an example because you are not supposed to push the .env file to the GitHub or to a public repository for security reasons. So when we come to .git ignore, you should always like have node modules right here, and also the .env file. Okay, so yeah, I needed to mention that. I didn't include it here for some reason. I think I just deleted it and then included an example and pushed it to the GitHub account, but you should ignore it right here. So, and then let's take a look at the to-dos route right here. So it's just one file. I know some people prefer having controllers and then having the routes on minimized to just the routes, and then calling the functions in the routes and so on. But right here we have everything on one file for simplicity, and since this is not too much, I think it's okay. So these are the CRUD operation routes. This is like getting all the to-dos from the database. This is posting a to-do to the backend, and we'll be taking a look at each of them whenever we are performing each of these CRUD operations. Okay, and right here I need to like exclude other. I forgot to like remove this because we won't be dealing with any user. So I'll remove the other from these, and maybe you can do the same so that yeah, we just remain with the minimal route right there. So that is for posting. This is for deleting a specific to do, and we'll be taking a look at it later on. And then this one is for editing a specific to do, and we'll be taking a look at it later on. Also from here I'll remove the other and the UID. So this stands for user ID, since we are not working with any user in this particular course. So I remove that and that, and also I will include a comma right there. So again, if you don't know how to create this from scratch, then I highly recommend that you check out the video that I'll pin at the description section, because what we'll be doing right here is just going through it very fast and moving on. Okay, and then right here we usually have like a model. This is called a model to do right here, and when you come to the model, this is why we have it. So it's like just shaping the to-do document. So our to-do should have a task is complete, which is a boolean, and a date. So in this particular course, we won't be like marking a to-do as complete or not complete. I'll leave that up to you as an assignment. We'll just be focusing on the minimal CRUD operations in Redux Toolkit. Okay, this is like the model. So let me save this file because I made some changes. And then what else? So now you can see we have like node modules after installing all the dependencies, which is cool. And also now from the front end, we also have node modules. These were not there, and this is what we were installing actually. Okay, cool. Now let's connect our backend to a MongoDB database. So what we need to do, I'll click on the backend right here. I'll add a new file and I'll call it .env. So this is for storing environment variables for it to be a bit secure. And the .env should look like this. We should have a variable address URI. So I'll just copy that and then come to the .env, include it here, and then we'll have is equals, and right here we will have the address, a connection string. Okay, so this is what we need to get from the MongoDB database. So after here we need to go to the browser and then search for mongodb.com on the browser, mongodb.com. Okay, just open a new tab, go to mongodb.com. If you don't have an account, create an account. Okay, and then after creating an account, what you will need to do is to create a new project. Okay, so right here I'll just create a new project. I already have one right here, but I'll create a new one for this particular course. Right here, give your project a name. I'll call it altk, just like that, and then I'll go next right here. Now right here, if you are working as a team, you can add members and so on, and you can give access right here and so on. So I'll just go with the default and create the project. Now right here, we need to build a database. I'll click on build a database, and then we choose a plan for our database. So I always go with the free one right here. So I'll go with the free one for this course. I'll create shared, which is free. And then right here, we need to create a cluster. So I'll just go with the defaults. I'll just scroll at the bottom. Okay, it's already right here, and create a cluster. So this will take some time to process. So 1 to 3 minutes. I'll wait for it to finish, and then we'll proceed. So my cluster have completed building, and now what you can do is to click on connect. So I'll click on connect, and then you can't connect yet. Set up your firewall access and user security permissions below. Okay, so we need to set up everything right here. I'll click add IP address, and actually what I'll do, I'll give it access to all. So allow access from anywhere. So this is just to work with and easy to set up. So I'll click add IP address, and then right here we need to create a database user. So right here I'll enter a name. I'll say Chaoo, and then the password. I'll just enter a simple password for me to work with. Actually, I'll show it. So I'll say okay, I'll say test password. So you need to create a strong password for yours for security reason. So this is strong enough for me right here, and I'll create the database user. And then you'll need your MongoDB user credentials in the next step. So I'll choose a connection method, and then right here I'll go to connect your application. So I'll click this, and right here we will get a connection string. And now this is what we need for us to include in the .env file. So I'll click this one to copy the connection string, and then I'll come back right here and I'll remove this and then paste it here. Now right here after Chaoo, we need to enter the password. So right here I'll enter the password that I included right there for the user, which is test password for Chaoo user. And then right here we need to enter a database name. So I replace my first database with RTK, and then I'll say CRUD like this. So this will be my database name, and it will be created automatically by our Node.js right here, which is really awesome. Now I will save this file, and we have a connection string connected to our MongoDB atlas right here. So now I can close this, and when I come to browse collections, we should not see anything. Actually, it should be empty, but let's see what we have. So it's empty. Now to run our backend, what we usually do, we need to come back to our terminal. So I'll hover over here and pull it up like that, and I will use nodemon. So I just need to say nodemon and then hit enter. It will automatically detect my index.js file as the root. Okay, so when I hit enter, we should be able to get these messages. Let me open this one. So first of all, we should be able to run the server on a port which is port 5000 right here, and then we should get MongoDB connection established. If we get an error, then something is wrong, and we'll try to solve it. So right here, let me just hit enter and see what happens. I'll give it time. So right here we got server running on port 5000 and Mongo connection established. Okay, so now we are connected to our MongoDB database. So when I come to MongoDB right here, maybe hopefully we should have our database created. Let me refresh and see if we have any. And look, we have this database already created for us, RTK, CRUD, and then we have to-dos right here. And these to-dos came along because we are already having a model right here called to-do.js. And when we say mongoose.model, and then we include to-do in a singular form right here, it will automatically create a collection called to-dos for us. And then that will be really awesome. And that's it actually. Okay, so this is it for this particular section. And now in the next section, we'll start working with our front end. And the first thing that we will start with is how we can post a to-do to the database. And the database is this one right here, which we are having on MongoDB. So that's it for this section, and I'll see you in the next one. So now we have our backend running, and we will let it remain like this because we need to access the routes on our backend. Therefore, it has to be running like this for the rest of the course. Okay, so make sure it's running whenever you are trying to make requests. And in this section, I want us to start working on our front end. And if you want to start your front end, you need to come to the terminal and run this command, npm start. So I have already done this, and this will start your React app on localhost 3000 by default. So when we take a look at our app on the browser, this is what we have. Awesome. So we just have a to-do app, an input field which is not functional, and then we have a title here, and list of tasks will be right here. Okay, so this is just a dummy template design for us to get started with. And in this section, I want us to take a look at the files that we have on our front end, and also to configure Redux so that we can start using it in our app to make HTTP requests to our backend. So we will configure our Redux Store using Redux Toolkit. So let's take a look at the files first. So I'll just minimize the backend, and I'll close some of the files for the backend right here, and we will remain with this to-dos.js which has our routes. So we'll be taking a look at the routes as we proceed with our front end. Now I'll maximize the front end right here, or open it up, and then I'll go to the SRC. The root of our application is index.js, and this is why we will configure the Redux Store and make our app, React app, communicate with the Redux Store. And then right here we have the app.js component, and let's see what we have. So it's loading. There we go. So in app.js, we are just importing the add to do and the list to do components and adding them right here. Okay, and now right here we have the title for our to-do app, like that. Now let's take a look at add to-do component. So we'll go into components. We just have these two components which we will be working with. So right here I open add to-do.jsx, and you'll see from this we just have like an input field. So we have a form, and then in our form we have an input field for adding a task, and then we have a button. So this is a material UI button for submitting that particular task. So this is a material UI component, and it's just a button for submitting the task. And then on submit, we are calling this handle submit function right there. And when I scroll at the top, this is our function for handling the submit. So we are preventing the default. This is where we'll perform the dispatch for the action creator. And then right here we just have we reset the value for our to do, and then we have use state right here with task, and is complete as the default state for the form. And yeah, this is just some basic form right there. Okay, so that is add to do a component. For the list to do, we actually don't have anything. It's just some placeholders right there, and we will be working on this one to like display our to-dos on the UI. Okay, so that is the list to do component. Nothing much. The next thing that I can show you is the app.css. We have some minimal styling right here to center our content, to style the input field, and on focus it changes the color to blue. And for the most of the things, we'll just be making use of material UI so that we can like move really fast. Okay, awesome. So now we need to like create our Redux store, and we will do that on our index.js file. And what we will do, we first need to like create a slice. Okay, a Redux Toolkit slice. So a slice is just like a piece of logic which like contributes to our Redux store. So it's just a piece of the store. So that is what slices means. Okay, so let's come right here. I'll close this one. Okay, let me just close this one. It's just being annoying. So we are on the front end right here, and what I will do, I'll add a new folder and I'll call it features. So this is a new folder structure which you can adapt for Redux Toolkit. And then in features, this is where we will like create our slice. So I'll add a new file, and I'll call this one to-dos slice.js, and then I'll hit enter. And this is where we will create our slice and also generate a reducer so that we can be able to configure our Redux store. Okay, so to create a slice, we need to import create slice from Redux Toolkit. So right here I will import, I will destructure it here, create slice, and this will come from at Redux Toolkit. So we have already like installed these dependencies when we said npm I for install. So Redux Toolkit was in our package.json file. So import create slice like that, and then right here we will say const to-dos slice will be equal to, now we invoke create slice, and then we pass in an object like that. The first parameter is the name of our slice right here, and we will call it to-dos like that. The other parameter is the initial state. So right here I'll just say initial state, and I need to create these outside here as an object. So right here I'll say const initial state will be equal to an object, and for the initial state, so we'll be having an array of to-dos. For the initial state, the to-dos will be an empty array. Okay, and then I want us to track the state and the error for each of the actions that we will be performing. Okay, so first of all, we will be adding a to-do, then we will be getting the to-dos, we will be updating the to-dos, and we will be deleting the to-dos. So we will be tracking the status for all those actions, and also the errors, so that we can like show them to the user. So right here I'll list all of them so that I don't keep coming back right here. So I'll say add to do status. So this will be either be pending, fulfilled, or rejected. Okay, so we'll be able to like show the spinner, show the success message, so show the error message depending on the status. Okay, so I'll default this to an empty string. Then we'll have add to do error. Okay, how is error written? Double R O R, like that. And then this will help us to like show the error dynamically from our backend. So this is for add to do. Let's duplicate this. How many times? 3 more times. And then right here we'll have for get to do's. So this will now be to do's because we'll be getting all the to do's from the database. Get to do's. So status and error. And right here we will have update to do status, and then right here we have update to do error, update to do error, and then you guessed it, this will be delete to do status, and then delete to do error. So these are like the status and the error messages that we will be displaying to the user, okay, so that they know that something have happened. So we have the initial state right there, we have to do's as an empty array, and we have the statuses and the errors for each of the actions that we'll be performing. Okay, cool. Now right here we have the initial state, and then the other parameter is reducers. So right here we'll have reducers, and I'll default this to an empty object. Actually, we will not be using this one because when performing HTTP requests, we'll be having action creators out here and handling their state in extra reducers. Okay, so we have also extra reducers like this. So the difference is that extra reducers will only handle the state of action creators that already exist out here, and then we use the reducers when we want to automatically generate an action creator and also handle its state. So if you want to see reducers in action, I have a complete like Redux Toolkit course where we create a complete shopping cart using React and Redux Toolkit. So I'll pin the video at the description section below, okay, so that you check it out. I have another cool course on Redux Toolkit. Okay, cool. So we will be working with extra reducers, but for now, I'll also default these into an empty object. Awesome. Now, what we need to do is to export a reducer from this. Let me minimize this one. So to export a reducer from this, we can do this way. You can just say export default, and then we will say to do's slice, and we'll have access to dot reducer right here. So this will export a reducer from this to do's slice, and then we can be able to use this reducer to create our Redux store. So I'll save this file, and then we'll go to index.js file. Now from the index.js file, we need to import a couple of stuff. First of all, we need to import the provider component from React Redux. Let's do that. I will import provider, and this is from React Redux. So this will help us to bind our Redux store with our app, so that our app knows that yes, we have this Redux store, and this is the global state for our app. Awesome. And then we need to import configure store from Redux Toolkit. So right here we will import configure store, and this will come from at Redux Toolkit, and then we need to import our reducer from our to-dos slice. So right here we will import. Actually what we can do, we can just make use of it and it will be auto imported right here for us, so that we don't have to navigate through all the files. So let's just go ahead right here and create a Redux store. So I'll say const store will be equal to configure store. So I'm calling this particular function from Redux Toolkit. So I invoke it like that, or call it, and then right here I'll pass an object, and we need to say right here reducer. This will be like a property, and this property will be an object. And now right here we need to pass in our reducer. So right here I'll say let to do's state be. Now right here I'll make use of the to-do's reducer. So I'll click on to-do's slice and it will auto import like this. Okay, but remember the default export from this file is the reducer. Okay, so just to avoid confusion, I can rename this to reducer like that. I rename this to reducer like that. So right here we are creating a Redux store using configure store, and we are passing in our to-do's state as from our to-do's reducer. So to-do's reducer will give us the initial state. So this should be our initial state, okay, for our to-do's reducer. Now we need to make our app right here aware of this particular store, and we'll be making use of the provider component. So we wrap our app with the provider component. So I'll say provider like that, and then we need to like have a closing one, so it's not coming up. Let's just say provider. Now in here we include our app, but still we are not passing in our store, so let's pass in our store. So we'll pass the store as a prop. So we'll say store is equals to store, and amazingly we have set up our Redux store, and we have connected it to our app. So our app is now aware of our Redux store. Configure store will also automatically configure our Redux DevTools. Okay, so if I come to the browser, we usually like have this Redux DevTools. So this is an extension which you can download from your browser. So just search for Redux DevTools, download, and maybe install it on your Chrome. Okay, I'm using Chrome browser, and that is what I recommend. So what I will do is that I'll refresh. Let me refresh this page. So we are actually getting an error. Your attempted import for the to-do slice, which falls outside the project SRC directory. So we included the features folder outside the SRC directory, which is a mess. So we need to like move it from here, from our front end root, and then we like move it inside the SRC folder. Okay, so I'll move it inside the SRC folder like that. Are you sure? Yes, I'm sure. So I move it inside the SRC. So here it is, and then you will see that this will auto change the import to just a dot slash. Okay, and I think that should fix it. Okay, so now I will save this file, and then I will like refresh right here and see if this will be fixed. So I refresh, and hopefully this will work out, and there we go. And now when you look at this one, it looks like it has been activated because our Redux store is now like connected to our app. And when I click this one, you'll see that we can see the initial state from this one. Okay, so when I come to the state, then you'll see here we have to-dos state, and when I expand this one, we have our to-dos, which is an empty array. And let me try to zoom it up. Okay, it's gone. I can't like zoom it, so bear with me. So right here we have our default state. So our connection and our Redux Store is working, and now in the next section we will try and post a task to our database, okay, from this particular form. So that is it for this section, and I'll see you in the next one. So now we have our Redux Store configured, and in this section I want us to try and post or add a to-do to the database from our form right here. Okay, so to do that we need to go back to our to-dos slice, and then we will create an action creator for us to make that post request. And also we will be making use of create async thank for that particular HTTP request. Okay, so I'll come back to Visual Studio Code right here, and then I'll go to to-do-slice.js, and actually I'll close this index.js because we won't be going there anymore. We'll be working with to-do-slice.js mostly, and these two other components. Okay, cool. So right here we will also destructure create async thank from Redux Toolkit. So right here I'll include a comma, and then I'll say create async thank. Okay, and then we will also import Axios. So I'll say import Axios like that, and this will come from Axios. So we'll use Axios to like make the HTTP request. So I'll also import Axios right there. Okay, cool. And then right here I'll like create a constant for the base URL. Okay, so let me show you. So right here I'll say const base URL will be equal to, so our backend is running on localhost 5000. So right here I'll include a string saying HTTP and then full colon / two of them, localhost, and then full colon 5000, and then we'll have stroke API and then stroke. So this will be our base URL. Our server is running on localhost 5000, and then the reason we are including stroke API is because in our backend, so if I open the backend right here and then go to index.js file, you will see for our routes we included right here stroke API, okay, and then stroke to-dos. So that is why we have like this stroke API like that. So for the base URL, this will be the base URL. Okay, so right here after our initial state, we can like create an action creator for us to add a new to-do to the database. So what I'll do, I'll say export const, and then I'll call our action creator to-dos add, and I'll set this to be equal to, here now we will make use of create async thank, and I will invoke it like that, and it will accept the first parameter as the action type. So how I like to do this, or how it's kind of done, it's you start with the name of the slice. So right here we include the name of the slice, and then we include stroke. Now I include the name of the action creator, which is to-dos add. So right here I'll say to-dos add, and now this is the action type. Okay, and this action type will be used to automatically dispatch other actions like fulfilled, pending, and rejected, and then we'll be able to handle those action types in our extra reducers. Okay, cool. Now this is the first parameter. The second parameter will be what we call a payload creator, which is simply a function. So I'll just use like an arrow function right here, like this. So this function has access to like two parameters right here. So the first parameter is our data, which we want to like post to the backend. So we'll call this data to do, and then the second parameter is usually called a thank API right here. And what we want from this thank API is to destructure what we call reject with value. So right here I'll destructure what we call reject with value from the thank API, and this reject with value will help us to customize the error message so that we can like add them to our status right here and so on. Okay, so you'll see how that one will work out. So this is a function with access to this parameter as the data that we are posting to the backend, and you should pass it as one. So if you have multiple data that you are passing to the backend, you usually pass them as an object. So right here I'm passing a to-do, which we will dispatch from to-do's add on our form. And then right here we have now reject with value, which we are going to use to customize the error message. Okay, nice. Now in here is where we can like make our HTTP request using Axios. So right here we can say axios.post. So we are posting a to do to the backend. The first parameter for the post request right here is the URL or the endpoint. Okay, and for the URL it will be now http localhost 5000 /API /todos. Okay, so that will be like the URL. So right here we will link our base URL with todos. So we will do it like this: base URL, and then we'll say plus. Okay, I need to like shift plus, and then right here I will add todos to the end, and it need to be like in small like that. So I'm simply joining this string with this string right here. So this is the first parameter. The first parameter is that link, and then the second parameter is the data that we are sending to the backend, and we are sending our to do. So this to do right here, it is this to do right here, and this to do we will receive it from our form. So we will see how that will come through. Okay, so this will be an asynchronous request, and it will take some time to process, so we can await it. And once we use await, we should wrap our callback function right here with async. So I will come right here and wrap our function with async. Okay, so it will be async await for this one. Okay, and then what we will get from the backend is the to do that we just like posted to the database. So right here we will have a response, and we can store it on a constant. So I'll say const response will be equal to await axios.post. Then we have our link for that particular backend, and then we pass in our data. Okay, so for this response, if we want to add it to our payload, to our action.payload, so what we can do is to just return right here. So we can say return response dot data. So the to do will actually be available in this response dot data property. Okay, so when we say return right here, it will be automatically be added to our action dot payload by our Redux toolkit, which is really awesome. Okay, now since this is an async request, we should wrap it with a try and catch block. So I'll say try right here. I open these, and I'll move these two lines inside the try. Okay, if this fails, then we will catch the error. So I'll say catch right here. I invoke these. We will have access to the error object like that. Okay, I messed up, and then right here we can like log the error to the console. So I can say console.log of the error like that. And then right here we can now make use of reject with value. So right here I can say return reject with value, I invoke this, and then I want to like pass the message to reject with value, and it will be available in error.response, and then we will have access to data. So this will like give us the error message from the backend, and when we return it like this, it will be added in the action.payload. Okay, so in action.payload we'll be able to access that error. Okay, let me save this so that it is auto formatted and it looks a bit nicer to read. Okay, so let's see how this post backend is created. So I'll come to the backend right here, and I'll go to the routes, and then I'll go to the to-dos.js. So on our to-dos.js, we are trying to like hit this particular backend right here. So this backend is accepting a task, is complete and date, and then we are using Joy to validate it. So this is a schema using Joy, and we are validating the request body. Does the request.body data match these requirements? If it does, then we continue. If it doesn't, we return an error. So if we return an error, this other process is terminated. If there is no error, then we are destructuring the properties from request body, and then we are creating a new to-do right here using the to-do model, passing in the data, and we get that particular to-do right here. So this is the to-do that is created, and this represents the document. Okay, so in MongoDB we have collections and documents. So documents are the actual like data, the actual data, and then the collection is now the collection of various to-dos. Okay, so now this to-do comes with a method to save it to the database, and it returns that saved to-do right here, and we are able to send this to-do to the front end or to whichever place we made that request. So we'll be able to receive this to-do in our front end inside our response, and that is what we will receive just right here. Okay, so that is the to-do that we will receive in our response.data. Okay, so that is how the backend is kind of implemented. So now we aren't done yet, because we need to handle the states for this action creator. Okay, so we need to handle the state inside our reducer, and we'll do that inside the extra reducers right here. So to handle the states, right here I told you there are 3 action types that will be auto-generated when we make a dispatch. That is pending, fulfilled, and rejected, and we need to handle them right here. So to access these states, you can use square brackets, and then right here you can say to-dos add. So this is the name of the action creator right here. To-dos add, the name of the action creator, and then we say dot pending like this. So if the status or the action type is pending, we will have access. You use a full colon, and then right here you can use an arrow function like this. So an arrow function like this, and in this arrow function you will have access to the state, which is our initial state right there, and then right here you'll also have access to action. Okay, and now you can use these 2 properties to update the state. Okay, so right here what I'll say return, I'll include an object, and I'll spread our state right here. Okay, like that. And then what I will do, I'll update add to do status. So right here I'll update add to do status to pending, because this is now the point that we are trying to make that request, and it's still processing. And then I'll default the others to be empty. So I have updated this one, add to do status to pending, and then I'll default the rest. All of these, I'll copy them and I'll default them to be empty. Okay, and one of the reasons why I'm doing this is because we are using one section to like display the error messages, so we don't want a lot of error message to like cloud in our app. So we'll be seeing how this is coming along. So I'll save all of these right here. I'll like paste them right here. Okay, So what we are doing, we are spreading the state and updating this one to pending, and I'm defaulting the rest to be empty. Okay, so that is what I'm doing. So this is for pending, and we will have a similar thing for fulfilled. So I'll Alt Shift and the bottom arrow to duplicate that at the bottom here, and then right here we will have fulfilled. Now like that, it will have access to state and action, and then we can like do something right here. And this is now supposed to be a comma, and I think we have messed up something which is not clear. So I need to include this crossing bracket like that. Okay, for this one, this will cross it like that, and then this one will cross right there. Okay, and then you include a comma right there. So that is the correct implementation. And then the same for this one, we'll have that and that. Okay, so now this will be fulfilled. We'll have access to state and action. So once it's fulfilled is when we will be able to access our to-do in our action.payload. Once the process is fulfilled or our promise is fulfilled, we will be able to receive our to-do back from the database in our payload, and therefore we can use it to update our to-do's state. Okay, so right here in the fulfilled, we can also update to-dos to be full colon, and then I will use it's an array. Our to-dos is in form of an array, but what we want to do is to spread the to-dos that already exist in our initial state. So we will spread the to-dos that already exist in our initial state just in case we have any, and that will happen when we are fetching all the to-dos from the database and then trying to add a new one. So we will spread those to-dos, and how we will do that, we'll use the spread operator, and then we'll say state dot to-dos. So this will give us access to those particular to-dos, and then we want to add this new to-do which is now available in our action.payload just in front so that it appears at the top. So right here I'll say action.payload. So that to-do will be available in action.payload, and then I use a comma like that, and this will do it. Okay, and then I'll now change our add to-do status from pending to success, because now this has like completed to process our request, and it has given back a response, which is really cool. And then we default the rest to be empty statuses and errors. So yeah, this is cool. So I'm using spread operators right here, but remember in Redux Toolkit you can as well do something like this. You can say let state dot to-dos dot push. So you can like directly push this to do to our array. So we can say action dot payload. So this is possible with Redux Toolkit because it uses a library called IMA, which is awesome. But when I do this and I want to like default the rest of them, then I'll have to say state dot add to do error, and then is equals to an empty string. State dot get to do errors is equals to an empty string. So instead of all that repetition, I prefer like spreading them like this. Okay, but it's totally possible to change the state directory like this. So I'll avoid that for now, and I'll stick to this old way of doing things in Redux. Okay, cool. Now let's handle rejected. So now I'll correctly select this up to this point, and then I'll duplicate it like that. And when I save, this will like auto format nicely. So I'm using prettier just in case you are curious to auto format. Okay, now we will handle rejected. So in case of an error, this will be automatically be dispatched, this action type. Okay, and then right here we'll have state and then action to use. So in this case we won't touch our to-dos, so I'll just remove this, and we are spreading that to-dos in here in our state right here, so don't worry about it. Okay, so what we will update right here is the add to do status, Right now it will no longer be success, but it will be rejected. And then now we will have the error in our action.payload. So we can update add to do error right here in our action.payload. So I'll say action.payload. So I'll set the add to do error to action.payload, and then I'll set the rest to be empty strings. So this is necessary like to clear the state whenever we are making a new request. And you'll be seeing this in action. So this error action.payload is coming through because we made use of reject with value right here, and we pushed the error to our action.payload. So if we remove this, we will not be able to say action.payload right here. Okay, so take note of that. That is the reason we need reject with value right here. And this is coming from our thank API, which has access to reject with value and some other values like get state in case we want to use the state right here, and so on. Okay, cool. So now we have like created this action creator for making a request, and we are handling the various types depending right here, fulfilled and rejected right here. Now the only thing that remains is to dispatch this particular action creator from our form and pass in the data, and the data is our to do right here. So let's go ahead and go to our form. Let me minimize this one, and then I'll go to add to do component right here. So I'll double click it, and right here I had already done like something. We were already having a form and a button, and we are handling the submit. So I expect you to at least know this basic stuff, and we can test if we are updating our task by like logging or alerting the user when they make a request. So let me do this. I'll say alert, I'll say JSON dot stringify. I want to alert to do, and the to do is this data right here. Okay, so I'm saying alert JSON dot stringify to do, and I cross this one like that. So I will save this just to test if we are getting the data updated for our task, which is being updated by this set to do, spreading the to do, and updating the task depending on the value. So let's test that one out first before dispatching. So I'll come back to the browser and let me refresh. Hopefully we don't have any error. Okay, there we go. Now I'll add like a new to do, and we should like get an alert when I click add. So there we go. We are getting an awesome alert here. So task new to do, so is complete is also false. Awesome. So that is working, and all we need to do is to dispatch our add to do action creator. Now for us to make the dispatch, we will import use dispatch from React Redux. So right here I will import use dispatch, and this will come from our React Redux library. So React Redux like that. Okay, and then I need to initialize this use dispatch. So I'll say const dispatch will be equal to use dispatch. I guess it's written that way, and then I invoke it like that. And then now right here I'll remove the comment, and I can say dispatch dispatch. I invoke it, and now right here we can like dispatch our action creator, which is let's confirm, which is to do's add. So let me first like save this file. So I'll save it, and then I'll dispatch to do's add right here. So I'll say to do's. Hopefully I'll get a suggestion. Yes, I click it and it's auto imported right here. So make sure you also import, and then I invoke this, and it is accepting some data, which is our to do. So I'll pass in our to do right like that. Okay, now when I save this, this is all we need to do. Now this to do will be received by our action creator right here as to do, and then we'll be able to pass in to our axios.post, and it will be added to the database. Once it's added to the database, we will get back the to-do that is added to the database, and then we will be able to like include it in action.payload. When it's successful, we will be able to add that to-do to our state, which is really cool. So I hope this is now making sense. Okay, so we can test this one out and hopefully it will work out. Okay, so let's see. I'll come back to the UI. Let me just refresh, and then we will confirm our state right here and see what we have first of all before we even make a request. So right now in our to-dos we don't have anything, and for our add to-do status we don't have anything. For our add to-do error we don't have anything. Okay, so we have confirmed that everything is empty. So let's try to add a new to-do. I will say new to-do. I will click add. So for us to see if there is any changes or anything, we need to come right here to the state, and then you can see our add to do status changed from pending and then it went to success. Awesome. And when we check to the state right here and expand this, and I also expand this, you'll see that we have a new to do in the database or in our state. So you can see task is new to do, is complete is false, date is right there, and then we have an ID for the to do right here. So this was automatically generated by MongoDB and we received it back like this, and we have a version. So this is very cool. And then for the date, this was added automatically by our Mongoose model. So let's check the model. So if I come to like right here in the backend, and then we go to models, and then I go to the to-do.js model. So you'll see here we have, yes, the date, but we have default to be new date. So that was added automatically because right here we are not like handling the date. So we are actually adding a to-do to the database, and also we can confirm that by going to our MongoDB database right here. Let me hit a refresh, and hopefully we'll be able to see that to do in the database. Now we have our database right here. It have refreshed, and look, we have a to do in the database. And now this is called a MongoDB document. This is a document, and then for the to dos, this is a collection, and then this is the database. Okay, so for the collection, we can have like multiple documents, which is awesome. So this is cool. Now let's try to like add an empty to do and see if we will get an error in our state. So I'll try to add an empty to do. I have clicked add without anything. Now let's see the state, what we are getting. You see now it's changing from pending to rejected. So our add to do's status, and then our add to do error is now having this message from an empty string to task is not allowed to be empty. And this is now coming through because of Joy data validation, and also because of our reject with value implementation. So if I come to do slice and we check for rejected, you can see this action.payload is the one that is giving us that error, and that is because we said right here reject with value error response.data, and also because of our backend implementation where we used Joy. So if I come right here and check for the to-dos.js, you can see right here where we have Joy, this is required. This is required, and it is supposed to have a minimum of 3. Okay, so if we include anything less than 3, then we get an error. So let's try out with like 2 of them. Let me try to add this. This will give us an error, and it will be a different kind of an error. So I check the state right here, and you can see task length must be at least something is being hidden right there. I can't see it. So let's go to the state. Let's expand this one. Must be 3 characters long. Okay, that is awesome. And now we can make use of these status and errors to show them to the user, but that we will do it on the next section. This section is long enough. So we have successfully posted a to-do to the database, and that is really cool. I hope you have learned something. We'll be using a similar process for getting the to-dos and a similar process for updating and deleting. So if you haven't gotten it right now, go through this section again, but we will be redoing it in a similar way. So hopefully by the end of this course, you will have understood the process. Okay, so I'll see you in the next one. In the last section, we successfully added a to-do to the database, but at this point, the user of our application doesn't know what is happening whenever they add a to-do to the database. So we want to show some cool success message or error message, or even like a loader whenever they are performing an action, so that they know that something is happening, okay, whenever they click add task. So for that, we need to access our to-dos state, so that we can track whether the status is pending, whether the status is rejected, whether the status is successful, and if it's rejected, then we also display an error, and if it's pending, we display a loader and such cool stuff. Okay, so we will handle that in this particular section. So I'll go back to the add to do right here, and for us to select the state from the Redux store, we need to make use of the use selector hook. So right here, I'll import use selector from React Redux, the same way we did with use dispatch. And now we can make use of this use selector to select our to-dos state from our Redux store. Remember, we named our to-dos state as to-dos state. So if I come to index.js file, let me minimize the backend and go to index.js. So if we come right here, we named our state to-dos state for our entire to-dos state. Okay, that is kind of repetitive, but I hope it makes sense. So what we will do right here, we will just invoke use selector. So I will call it like that, and right here we'll have access to the state. So I'll use an arrow function like this. So right here we will have access to the state. So I'll say state, and we will now return the state right here. So I can return the entire state like this, but what I want to return is the to-dos state. So I'll say to-dos state like that, and now these will return our to-dos state, and we can store it in a constant. So right here I'll say const to-dos okay, to-dos state is equals to use selector state, and then we return to-dos state. So right here we have the state now for our to-do, and actually we can log it to the console and see what we have. So right here I can say console.log of our to-dos state. So I save this, and then now I can go to the app and see whether we are logging our to-dos state to the console. So back to the app right here, I'll hit F12. Awesome. Let's go to the console and see if we are logging the state to the console. And here we are logging the state to the console. So we have to do error. So you can see all of this is empty because we are not actually getting the to-do from the database, and the to-dos will appear right here only when we add, okay, because that is the point that we are updating the state. When we refresh, we are losing that data, but we'll be able to access it once we handle the get request, okay. But you can see we are able to log the state to the console, okay. So we can now be able to access all of these properties using our to-dos state right here. So I'll just remove this. That was just for demonstration. And what I want to do is, after the button right here, I want us to display the error messages and so on using the alert component from Material UI. So from Material UI, I will import alert. So right here we are already importing a button from MUI stroke material. Now I will import alert like that, and I'll also import circular progress for us to like show a progress when we are making a request. Awesome. So now we have alert and circular progress right there. Now after our button, we need to like do some checks for us to display different messages depending on the status of our add to do's status. So right here, I'll use curly brackets so that I can write some JavaScript code inside the JSX, and I'll say to do's status. Okay, to do's state dot add to do status. So if this is equal to rejected, like that, if our status add to do status is equal to rejected, then we want to display an error. So right here I'll like use a question mark, and then right here I'll now make use of our alert component. So I'll say alert like that, and we have a prop called severity of our alert, and in this case this will be an error. So it's rejected, so it's an error like that, and in here we display the error. So right here I'll also use curly brackets because our error will be available in our to-dos state dot add to do error. Okay, so it will be available in our error right here. And remember, this is possible because we actually like updated our add do error by saying add to do error to be action.payload. So this action.payload is the error message that is coming from our backend. Okay, so this is the first like when this is true. When it's false, then we don't want to display anything. Okay, so I will include like null right there, and I will save that, and this should do it. This should display an error message. Now let's do this a similar thing for success. So I don't want to keep typing this, so I'll just duplicate it at the bottom, and I'll say if add to do status is successful like that, then I'll display an alert, and the severity of this one will be success. So it will be a green message, this will be a red one, and then right here we can like have a custom message for us to work with because we are not getting any message from the backend, so we can manually add it right here. So we can say a task added. So the task was added to the database, and then else we just display null. Awesome. Okay, now this is rejected and success. What about pending? For pending, we would like to display a spinner, else we display add task. Okay, cool. So for that, I'll just remove this add task. So remember, this is inside our button component. So this is the opening, this is the closing. So in here I will include this, and we will perform a check. So right here I'll say to do's state dot add to do status. If this is equal to pending, like that, then I use a question mark. So what we want to display is a component in here, and the component that we are displaying is the circular progress component. So circular progress, this is now from material UI, we just imported it, and I'll like close it like that. So we have several props. The first one is the size, so we want to decrease its size, so we can say size is equals to, we open this curly brackets and we say 24. So this is how we like do it, and then we also change the color, and we will change the color to secondary, which is I think purple or something. Okay, purplish secondary. So that is these are the two props for our circular progress. Okay, So this is when it's true. When it's false, then we want to display add task, like that. So now we will like display the text for our button, and yeah, that is it. So if the status is pending, then we display that something is happening, else add task. And then if we have rejected, we display the error, else if we success, we display that it was successful. And this is what we need to do for us to like show those messages. So now let's test out our app. So I'll come back, I'll refresh just to make sure that everything is refreshed, just like that. And our console is clear. So right here, let's try to add an empty task, and you should see an error message right here. So I'll add, you see, you saw a loader right there, and then so we got an error, but we are not seeing anything right here. So something is wrong. Something is wrong with our implementation. Add to do error, and task is not allowed to be empty. So something is wrong with our implementation. Let's see what it is. Okay, I saw it. So this is not reject, but this is rejected. So the check is not correct. I'll save that now. So that is the issue right there. Okay, hopefully now it should work. And there we go, it actually works. Task is not allowed to be empty. When we include 2 characters, task length must be at least 3 characters long. When we successfully add a to-do, let's say code CSS, I add the task, we should get a loader and then task added. So that task was successfully added to the database. So this is working in terms of displaying the error messages and a loader right there. And since we will be doing the same for update and for delete, I want to like just complete it right now so that we don't have to come back right here. So I'll do the same. We'll be displaying the messages at the same place. So I'll just duplicate these 2 more times. So that is for update, that is for delete. And let's now like handle them. So right here we will say to-dos state dot update status. So dot update to do status. Okay, so instead of add, now it's update, because we are displaying the error message at the same place. If it's rejected, then we will say to-dos state dot update to do error. So this will be update to do error. And then right here we do for success. So update, if the status is successful, then we will say task updated, not added, updated. That is it for update. Now for the delete, so this will be delete to do status, delete to do status. If it's rejected, we display delete to do error. And then right here we go with delete to do status. If it's successful, we display like a warning, a to-do was deleted, or let's use a task was deleted. You can use any if you want, like it doesn't matter that much. And then right here, the severity for our deletion, let's place it as a warning, because you know destroying data is considered like a warning. Yeah, cool. So this is awesome. This is awesome, and we'll be seeing this in action when we implement update to do and delete to do. So for getting to do's, we are not displaying any message, but still you can display the message if you want. Yeah, this is now like up to you. So this is how you can like do it. And now this is the reason why we needed to include all this. Okay, that is the reason why we needed to include all this in our state. And that is also the reason why we needed to clear the state for the rest when updating one, because we are using the same place to like update the messages, so they won't cloud up right there. Okay, so when we display an error message for this one, then we clear the state for the rest. Okay, when we display a success for this one, we clear the state for the rest. So that is like what is happening. When we display an error message for this one, we clear the state for the rest. So I will save that, and yeah, this is cool and I'm happy with this implementation. Now in the next episode we will start working with our list to do's component right here, because we will try to fetch the data from our backend and we list the to do's right here, all of them, and show them on the UI, and we will continue from there. So in the next episode or in the next section, let's handle the fetch or the get request. Now, so far, we can be able to add data to our database using our form. And if we check at our database, we now actually have some data right here. In this section, I want us to try and fetch this data from the database and display them on the UI. And this will be through the help of our backend API. So I'll go back to VS Code. And if I check at our to-dos route right here, you will see that this is the endpoint or the API that we need to access so that we can get back our array of to-dos. Okay, so what is happening here is that we are using the find method, and we sort the to-dos using the date, so that the to-do that you add the last one will appear as the first one. Okay, and then we are storing that to do on a constant, and we are sending it to the user or the UI. And in case of an error, we are logging the error to the console and also sending the error to the user. So yeah, this is a very simple route that will help us to get the to-dos from the database. Now for us to do these on the front end, we need to create an action creator to hit that particular endpoint, like we did with adding a new to do. Okay, so let's just create an action creator right here real quick. So what we will do, we will just export, and I'll say const get to do's, and this will now be equal to create async thunk, and I will invoke this. The first parameter is the action type, so I'll call this one to do's stroke get to do's, and then an async function. So I'll wrap it using async like that, like we did with this one. We'll have the brackets, and it will be an arrow function like this, and we'll do something in here. So for this particular period creator, it accepts the first parameter as the argument, so it will expect us to have the first value. Although we don't need to use it, we will default the first value to an ID which will be equal to null. So we are not making use of this ID. This is just a placeholder. Now the second parameter is the thunk API, and we can destructure reject with value from the thunk API. So right here I will destructure reject with value just like that. And now in here we can be able to use a try and catch block. So I'll say try. In case of an error, we'll say catch, and we will have access to the error object, and we can be able to log the error to the console. So we can say console.log of error, and right here we can also make use of reject with value to add this error to the action.period, so that we can use it to update the get to do's error. So right here I'll say reject with value, and then I'll just invoke it, and I'll pass in error.response.data. So this is where our message will be available in. And then in our try block, this is where we'll make use of Axios. So we will get back a response, and we can store it in a constant. So we'll say this will be equal to we await Axios dot get, and then right here I will invoke it, and will pass base URL, and then we say plus to-dos. Okay, and this will like hit our backend API or endpoint, and it will give us our data. So I misspelled this one, response. Okay, how is this written? Yeah, I think that is right. Now our data will be available in response.data, which is an array of our to-dos. So right here we'll say return response.data, and now this will be added to our action.payload, which is really awesome. Okay, now I want to mention that the alternative way of fetching data in Redux Toolkit is by using RTK query, and I already have like a video on this on my channel, and I'll pin it somewhere at the top here on a card so that you can like access it if you want to learn how to fetch data using RTK query. But in this case, I'll just stick to create a sync blank for the all of the action creator that we will be using right here, so that we can be able to like handle all the state in one place. Anyway, let's continue, and right here is our action creator, and what we are doing, we are just accessing our endpoint here using axios.get. We will have a response, and our array of to-dos will now be available in response.data, and that way we can be able to access it through action.payload and update our to-dos state. So let's update the to-dos state at the bottom here inside our extra reducers. So what I will do, I will like copy all of these. We have pending, fulfilled, and also rejected, and I will use Alt Shift and the bottom arrow. So I'll duplicate the three of them like that, because we'll be having a similar case for get to-dos. So I'll change all to-dos add right here. I'll use Control D to select all of them, and then I'll delete, and then I'll say get to-dos. Now let's go to the first one right here for pending. So we'll update the status for this one. Get to-dos status, we'll update it to pending. Okay, so we'll update this pending, and for add to-do status, now we will clear its state by setting it to an empty string. Okay, and then I'll come to the fulfilled one. We will update the list of our to-dos here into action.payload. So now in this case, action.payload will contain the array of our to-dos, and we can like add it directly like this. So we can say action.payload just like that, and then we'll update the get to-dos status right here to success, and we will clear the state for our add to-do status to an empty string. Okay, so you can see how this is working along. And then for rejected, so we will just like remove this from here and go to the get to-do status. So for get to-do status, now here we will have rejected, and then in case of an error, for get to-do status or for get to-do's error, we'll have action.payload, and we remove the quotes because this is no longer a string. And then right here we clear the state for add to do status, and we clear the state for add to do error into an empty string. Okay, and this is it. This is how we can like manage the state for getting the to-dos. Awesome. Now all that remains is for us to dispatch this particular action creator from our UI, so that we can be able to like get the to-dos, and then we can display them on the screen. Awesome. So we will do that in list to-dos component. So this is where we will like dispatch the action creator, and then handle everything to do with displaying the to-dos to the UI. Okay, now right here we will need to import several stuff so that we can work with this component, and let's import everything that we will need uh, in order to display our to-dos. Okay, so right here, first of all, we will need to dispatch our action creator, and we will also need to read the state from our Redux store. So for that, we need to import use dispatch and use selector from Redux. So right here, I'll do that import. I'll say import use dispatch, and also I will import use selector, and these will be from React Redux, just like that. And I kind of like to have the CSS file at the bottom here, like that. And then we'll need to make use of the use effect hook, so that when we load this component, we also automatically dispatch our action creator. So right here, I'll also like import the use effect hook. So I'll say import use effect, and this will be coming from React. Let me have this at the top here, the React import. And then now right here, I will import the moment library right here, so that we can like format the date. So right here, I will import moment from moment, like that. And then I'll import some material UI components. So I will import a button, a circular progress, and also a CRUD. So right here, I will destructure CRUD, I will destructure circular progress, and I will also destructure a button, and all these will be coming from the material UI library. So I'll say it MUI stroke material. So this is CRUD, not cut. Circular progress button, awesome. What else do we need to import? We will obviously need to import our get to do's action creator, but we can like auto import it when we make use of it. So yeah, let's just continue right here. So first of all, I can like initialize the dispatch. So I can say const dispatch will be equal to use dispatch. I invoke it, and then we can read the to-dos state. So I can say const to-dos state will be equal to use selector. Now we will have access to state, and we can return state dot to-dos state, like that. Now we will be able to like make use of to-dos state to read our array of to-dos, and also to read the status if we want to. Okay, now for us to easily like map through the to-dos, we can destructure the to-dos from the to-dos state. So right here you can say const I destructure to-dos. So this is our array of to-dos, and this will be coming from to-dos state, like that. So this is just to like simplify things when we want to map through our to-dos. Okay, now right here we can like dispatch our action creator, and as I told you, we'll make use of use effect hook. So use effect, and I will invoke it. We pass an arrow function in here, and now right here we can be able to like call the dispatch. We invoke it, and then we get access to our get to do's action creator. So when I click this, it will be auto imported, and maybe I can now move it right there. Awesome. So we also need to invoke this particular action creator. So now we are like dispatching this get to do's action creator from here, and use effect will be called when our component loads. And then right here we now like need to pass the dependency, which is dispatch, just like that. And this is it. This is how we can dispatch the action creator. And then what else do we need to do? Now we need to like map through our to-dos, because now they should be available in our to-dos state. To make sure that they are available, let's just like save this file and then go to the UI and see if we will see it in our Redux DevTools. So I'll save this. Let's go back here. Let's do a refresh just to make sure that everything is refreshed. So now I'll just open Redux DevTools right here and check the status. So you can see get to do's is changing from pending to success, and then in our state we like check it and look, our to-dos has our two to-dos from the database. So we are actually fetching the data from the backend and adding it to our state right here. So how did that happen? Okay, when our component loads right here, we are doing this dispatch. This use effect will be called automatically, and it will dispatch get to do's. When it dispatch get to do's, our get to do's right here we'll call axios.get, and we hit the endpoint, we get back a response, and we add the data in our action.payload. Now our to-dos is available in action.payload. When we come to extra reducers, in get to-dos.fulfilled, we are adding our action.payload, which is essentially our array of to-dos to our to-dos right here. And we are updating the status to success, which is awesome. So yeah, that is working, and all that remains is for us to map through the to-dos right here and display them on the UI. So let's do that. So right here we already now have like to-dos from our to-dos state, and we can now like dynamically display how many to-dos we have on our state. So right here I'll use the curly brackets, and I can say to-dos and I'll just say to-dos dot length. So I'll just access the length property, and that will be displayed right there. Awesome. So now we should like see how many to-dos we have. So let's see. We have 2 of them, and let's refresh, and okay, it already updated. Now look, we have 2 to-dos right there. Awesome. Okay, now instead of list to-dos, I'll just remove this, and I'll include these curly brackets again. We can check for the get to-dos status. So I'll say to-dos state dot get to-dos status. If this is equal to pending, so what we will do, we'll just display the circular progress. So we already imported this component, circular progress, and so this is for the case when this is true. When it's false, we'll just display null. So right here, I'll use a full colon and then use null. Let me cancel this one. There we go. So when we are loading our to-dos, then we can see that circular progress right there. And then after this, we can just map through our to-dos. So right here, I can just say to-dos dot map, and then we will get each to-do at a time. So we'll get each to-do at a time, and we can display each of them on the UI. So I'll make use of the CRUD component, which we imported at the top. So I'll say CRUD like that. And this will accept like several props right here. We'll say the variant will be equal to outlined, and then we have this SX prop which we can pass in our custom styles. So we'll set this to be equal to, we use these double brackets like this, and now in here we can say let the padding for our card be 0.7 rem, and then we can say let the margin bottom for our card be 2 rem. Awesome. So this is how we can like add custom styles in Material UI components, which is awesome. So this is outlined. Okay, yeah, I'm so bad at spelling right here. And then we need to pass a key to this card. So after SX right here, we can pass in a key, and we set it to be to do a dot underscore ID, because our key is kind of supposed to be unique. Awesome. Now inside our card, which is right here, we need to have a heading for our to do. So I will use a H3 right here, and the heading will now be our to do dot task. So right here I'll say to do dot task like that, and then we need to have maybe when the to do was added, I'll make use of the paragraph tag, and I'll say added a useful colon, and now right here I can make use of moment to format the date. So I can say moment like that, and then I invoke moment, and I'm supposed to pass in the timestamp, which is to do dot date, and then right here I'll say dot from now. So this is now like a moment method which you can use to customize the date the way you want. So this is how we can like display the date, and then we want to have maybe a button for updating the to do and another button for deleting the to do. Okay, I don't know if we first check if this is working and then add the button later on. So let's just check if it's working. So I'll save this, and then let's see what we have. Let's refresh. So to-do is not defined. I'm so bad at spelling. Okay, to-do. Where do we use that? This is supposed to be to-do. I save that, and we refresh. You can see the circular progress is working. There it's working, and once it's done, now we have our array of to-dos. Awesome. So we are displaying them on the UI, and now right here let's like add a new one. This is a new to do. I click add, it's loading, to do added, and look, this is a new to do added an hour ago. So our date is kind of messed up for the backend. It's not accurate, so we will be fixing it later on. But the point is, look, we can be able to display the to-dos right here, and we are able to also automatically display it when we add it to the database. So when we add it, what is happening is that when we check at our to-dos slice, when we add a new to-do right here, it will take our existing state.todos and it will add the new one in front of that particular array right here. Okay, so it will correctly update the state, and we can see it on the fly like this. Okay, which is really awesome. So cool. Now let's like add the update and the delete button, so that when we get to the next sections, we'll just make use of them instead of keeping on adding them. Okay, so we will fix the date here when we get to updating the to-do. So we won't do it right now. We'll fix it when we are updating the to-do. So for now, let's add the update and the delete, and that will be it for this section. So I'll go back to the list to-dos, and we are already importing a button. So let's just make use of it after our p tag. So this is so easy. We'll just call the button, and right here we'll just say update, and then in here we can have some props for the button. So I'll have variant for update, variant to be equal to outlined, like that, and then I will have the size for this one to be small, so we don't want a big button for our to do. And we can have some custom style, so I'll set sx to be equal to font family right here, and we'll say Abel, and then this is the font family that I'm kind of using, a fallback of sans serif. So these like material UI components won't have the font family by default. Yeah, and you can see now this is messed up, so let me use like a single quote right here, and then I'll use double quotes to enclose the entire font family like that, so that it doesn't throw this error right here. Okay, awesome. And then we can like have a comma if we want. So right here we are just setting the font family to Abel and a fallback of sans serif, and that is it for this button. So I can just duplicate this button, and down here we'll have this as delete, like that, and then we will have the variant as contained, the size is small, font family will be Abel, but now we can add in a color for delete. So we will add it as a prop right here. We'll say color is equals to, okay, it will be equal to secondary, like this, and then we can add some margin to the left so that these buttons are not like together or anything. So I'll add right here margin left, and I'll use a full colon, and I'll set this to be 0.7 rem. So for delete, we are making it to be contained. We are adding a color of secondary, and we are adding some margin left. So I will save that, and let's see what we have. Let's see if it will load. There we go. So now look, awesome. This is our update. The color is blue, and then this is our delete. The color is secondary, and it's contained. This is outlined. Awesome. So this is it. This is how we can like display the buttons. And now in the next episode, we are going to handle update, or in the next section we are going to handle update. So when we click update right here, we autofill our form, and we change the text right here to update task. And then when we click update task, we dispatch an action creator to update our to do right here, and we also like update the state correctly. So yeah, that is what we are going to do in the next section. That is it for this section, and I'll see you in the next one. So in this episode or section, I want us to like update a task. So when we click this button update, we will autofill our form. We'll change the text here to update, and then we can like actually update a specific task. Also, we will fix the date while we are on these, okay, so that it will display the correct date whenever we add one. Awesome. So let's start by taking a look at the endpoint, the Node.js and Express endpoint that handles the update request. So I have the todos.js right here already opened in our routes. And when I scroll now at the bottom here, this is why we have the put request. So put request is used for update together with the patch request. So this route is handling put request, and as you can see, it will expect us to pass an ID in our path. So this will be read as a parameter or a param. Okay, so the way it's read is this way: request .params.id. So we'll pass the ID of a specific to do that we want to update through that particular endpoint, and then you can see it accepts these properties: task is complete and date. And then we validate the data. In case of an error, we like get an error on the UI. And then right here is where we are like updating the to do. We have this method find by ID. So first of all, we check if the to do exists actually. So this is checking whether the to do exists. So we find if the to do exists using the ID that we pass through the path right here. If it does not exist, then we will get this error, to do not found. Else we will go ahead and like update the to do. So right here we are destructuring the properties from the request body, and now we are using this method to update the to do, find by ID and update. So we pass in the ID of the to do, we pass in the body, and then right here we have like we have options new to true. So this means that we return the new to do right here, like the to do that is already updated, and we can receive this to do on our React app so that we handle the state correctly and automatically like show an updated to do to the user. So if you don't include this one, then you'll get back the old to do which is not updated. Okay, so that is the difference, and this is the put route. Again, I'm not going into too much details on this one. If you want to run it from scratch, check the video at the description section below for the CRUD operations in Node.js or REST operations in Node.js. Okay, I have a complete like video, 2 hours video on this one. So yeah, go check it out if you want to run this in details. But this is the route. The main thing to note is that we need to pass an ID and we need to pass the body of our to do right here. Okay, so those are the 2 main things that we need to like understand from this. And the other one thing that we need to understand is that we are getting back the updated to do right here, which we can use in our state to update our UI. So let's just go right into our to-dos trace. And now you know the drill. We start by creating an action creator right here. Okay, so right here we will export a new action creator, and I'll go ahead and say export const update to do. So this is the name of the action creator. We make use of create async thunk. So create async thunk allows us to make the asynchronous request or HTTP request using Axios, or you can use any other, like maybe the fetch API in JavaScript and so on. So in this case, I like using Axios, like it's just awesome. So right here, I'll invoke it, and the first parameter is the action type. So I'll say do's stroke update to do's, just like that. And the second one is the payload creator, which will be an async function. So let's just create it. So right here, we will pass in our to do to the body of the request. So I need to like include it here. It's a similar way like we did right here. Okay, to do, and then like we need to destructure reject with value. Let's do that. Reject with value, and then this will be an arrow function. Okay, try and catch block right here. In case of any error, we'll have access to the error object, and we can just log this to the console. So I'll say console.log of error, and also we can add it to our action.payload when we say return reject with value, and we invoke these, we pass error dot response dot data, just like that. So response is not written this way, it's response. Awesome. Now let's make our request right here. So right here, first of all, we need the ID. So right here, what I will do, I'll extract the properties of our to-do. Okay, so let me extract the properties like this. So I'll extract the underscore ID like that, and then I will extract or destructure the task. I'll destructure is complete, and I'll destructure the date, and all this we are getting them from the to-do. So I'll show you how we will like pass these right here. Okay, so when we look at this particular endpoint, we just need to pass the task is complete and date. So we don't want to pass the ID right there. So the ID will access it through the params. Okay, so that is like how this endpoint is implemented. So now right here we can like make the HTTP request. So it will return a response, and remember this response is the updated to do. Okay, so if we check again at our endpoint, the response that we will get, res.send, this is the response, and this is the updated to do. And the reason why we are getting the updated to do is because of this new flag. Okay, it will give us the to do that we have just updated, and then we can make use of it to like update the state in our slice right here. So our response will be equal to await Axios dot put. So now this is a put request, and we invoke it. So the first parameter is the endpoint, and the endpoint will be base URL, and then we use a plus. Okay, a plus, and this will be to do's. Okay, this will be to do's stroke. So we want to like also add right here the ID. So plus, let me scroll right here, we add the underscore ID. Now, so this will be something like a HTTP localhost 5000 stroke API stroke to do's stroke the ID of the to do that we are trying to update, so that that ID we will be able to access it like this, request.params.id. So it will be read from our API endpoint right there, or our path right there. Awesome. So that is why we are passing the ID right there. Now this is the first parameter. The second parameter, so we are still inside our put method right here. Our second parameter is now the body of the request. So we pass the task is complete and the date as the body of the request. So I'll use an object like this. We pass the task, we pass is complete, and we also pass date. And as I told you, in this course we won't be making use of is complete, and I'll leave that up to you. Try to implement it to mark a to do as done or not. So is complete is a boolean value, true or false. So you can like try that one out. Okay, cool. So this is how we are like making the request, and we'll get back a response which is the updated to do, and we can add it to action.payload when we say return response dot data, just like that. Awesome. So I will save that to like auto format there, and then we can handle the state for this one just at the bottom at our extra reducers. So what I will do, I'll go to like get to do's right here, and I'll duplicate pending, fulfilled, and rejected. So I'll use Alt Shift bottom arrow to duplicate them, and then I'll go through each of them and update each one of them. So this will be update to do dot pending. So update to do, and what I'll do, I'll just copy these and I'll come to this one. That will be update to do dot fulfilled, and this will be update to do dot rejected. Awesome. Now let's go back to pending. So we update the status. So when we are making an update request, we will default the rest to be empty, and then we change update to do right here, the update to do status right here, to pending, and that is all we need for update to do dot pending. And then let's come to update to do dot fulfilled. So here we need to update the array of to-dos and also the status for this one. So let's start with the status. It's the easiest one to change. So that will be success, and this will be now empty. So we will default it to be empty. And then we need to update our array of to-dos with the updated to-do, which is now kind of tricky. But what we will do, we will make use of the map method, because it usually returns a new array, so that we can go through our to-dos. We check the to-do that we have updated, and we change it with the new to-do. So right here, before our return statement, I'll create a new constant and I'll call it updated to-do. Updated actually to-dos, like that, to-dos, updated to-dos. This will be equal to state dot to-dos, and then we will map through these to-dos which are available in our state. So we use the map method, we invoke it, we get a to-do at a time, and we can do a check on this one. So right here we will say to-do, so this to-do which is available in our array, and we will say dot underscore id. Okay, if this to-do dot underscore id is equal to action dot payload dot underscore id. So this action dot payload dot underscore id is the to-do that have been updated from the database, and then this one is the one that is available in our state. So if we successfully update this to-do in the database and we get it back right here, so what we will do, we will check our state. We get the to-do that have a similar ID, and if it have a similar ID, it means that this is the to-do that we have just updated. Therefore, we also update its state, so we will change its value. So if this is true, then we will set that to-do that has this particular ID. We will set it to action dot payload. Okay, I don't know if you are understanding this. Else we'll just return the to-do that is there, like the to-do that is not equal to the ID. So we'll return the other to-dos the normal way, like the way they are. Okay, I don't know if you understood, but if I come to the UI, what I mean is this. So when we update this particular to-do, we send it to the backend, it will be updated, right? And we get back an updated to-do. So on our slice, we will map through these to-dos. We'll go through each of them and check the IDs. So we will see that this particular to-do ID is the one that is equal to the one that we are getting from the database. So if they are equal, then we will replace this one with the one that we get back from the database that is updated. So we will replace this to do with the one that we get from the database that is updated. Else, for the rest, we will just return the to do that is already there. Like we will return it the way it is, so we won't change it. Okay, so that is what I mean. And yeah, try to understand that. So what we will now have right here, we will get an array of all the to-dos with the updated one. So our list will now be an updated list of to-dos, and all we need to do is to replace this right here to-dos with the updated to-dos. So we'll set it to be equal to updated to-dos. So updated to-dos, which is this one right here. Okay, so we get a new array with the updated to-do, and then right here success. So that is what is happening there, and it's important that you update the state correctly so that you see the changes on the fly. You don't have to like refresh the page for you to see the changes. Okay, and that is one of the importance of like using React. You see the changes as they happen because of state. Now if the to-do is rejected, then we'll update the status here to rejected, and we will update the payload to action.payload, and we will default these to empty strings so that we don't like have multiple error messages on the UI. We have the error message for the current action. So we have completed our update to do action creator. Now we need to dispatch this action creator, and this is now the trickiest part. So the thing is, we need to do a dispatch of this action creator in our add to do. Now how will we do that? Like how? Okay, how will we do that? So in case of errors, we are like displaying them right here. Okay, right here, this one and this one. We did this before so that we don't have to like keep doing it. We need to like use the same method right here to dispatch, and yeah, we need to also change the text for add task to update task. And also we need to do this when we click update right here, we need to autofill our form right here. So let's start from this. When we click this, we update the form right here. So how we will do that is by using the state, this one, the to-do state. So when the to-do changes right here, then the form value also changes, the input value right here. You can see it's to-do.task. So it changes. This is like a controlled input. So when the input change, then the state change. When the state change, the input change. So they are like connected. Okay, so what we need to do is to raise the state, and raising the state means that we need to go to a component where we have both the add to do and the list to do, and we will include this piece of state in that particular component, that parent component. So we will raise the state. That is what we need to do. So we will remove that, and we no longer need to use state right here. So I will also remove that. And then the parent component is the app.js component. So this is why we have both add to do and list to do. And this is where we will include our piece of state for to do and set to do, so that this piece of state can be shared by both of these two components. Okay, so we need to import use state in this particular component. So right here, I will import use state like that. So this is from React, and then we will be able to like now pass to do and set to do as props to add to do and list to do. So in our add to do right here, we will pass to do as a prop. We will set it to be our to do like that, and also we will pass set to do as a prop, and we will set it to be set to do. Now we can destructure to do and set to do from our add to do component. Now in our add to do, we can be able to destructure those two right here. So to do, and then we will also have set to do. We are destructuring them from props. So I will save that, and now our add to do should now like function as normal, because we have to do and we have set to do right there. And now when we call set to do, it should not throw an error, and when we call to do, it should also work as expected right here. Okay, cool. Now we need to pass set to do to our list to do's. That is the only plot that we need right here. So we will pass set to do right here, set to do like that. Okay, and we save that, and now in our list to do's we can be able to access set to do. So now we are done with this app component. We don't need to like include any other code. So what we will do in our list to do's, we'll make use of this set to do to update our state here depending on which to do we have clicked, so that now it will allow autofill our input field, which is in our add to do. Since the state is shared, when we update the task here, we will also like update the value of our add to do. So when you see this in action, it will make sense. So let's go to list to do right here, or list to do's with this structure right here from props set to do. Okay, and now all we need to do is to go to our update button right here in our to do, and we include an on click event. So right here we'll have an on click event. We will say on click will be equal to, I use these curly brackets, I use an arrow function like this, and now right here we can call our set to do, and we invoke it like that. And what we will do, we will spread the properties of our to do. So we will pass in our to do right here, and we just spread the properties. Actually, we can just like pass it directly like this. This will also do it. Okay, so we set our to do to do. Awesome, like that. Now this will update our state with this particular to do, and this particular to do is the one that we mapped through and so on. So it has all the properties. So yeah, let's save this file, and now if we test it out, it should work. It should update the input field. So let's first test this one out. Okay, let me refresh to make sure that everything is refreshed and everything is working. Refresh. So no errors so far. Now when I click this one, update, you can see it's now autofilling our input field, and now we can like change the value and so on. But now this to do has the ID, has a version, has everything that our to do's has from the database. So if we try to add it, it will like give us an error because ID is not accepted when adding a new to do. So let's see. When I add, you see ID is not allowed. So we can't like just add it the way it is. So what we need to do, we need to work on our handle submit so that we can correctly update our to do. So yeah, and if we try to add a new one, new to do, it should add. So new to do, task added. So that is working. So our adding of to do is still working even after raising the state, but our update is not yet working correctly. But it's we have made some progress. When we click this one, it's autofilling our form with the to do together with an ID, with a version, with everything. So that ID is very important because we can make use of it to decide whether we want to update or to add a new to do. So yeah, that is what will actually help us. So you can see we are getting the to do right here. So we can like check if this to do has the ID or it doesn't have the ID. So if it has an ID, that means that we are trying to update that particular to do. And if it doesn't have the ID, that means that this is a new thing and we can just directly add it the way it is. So in our handle submit right here, we will like use the ID to decide which dispatch to perform. So right here I'll say if to do dot underscore ID exists, then what we want to do is to update the to do. Okay, so right here we will perform a dispatch of update to do. So this update to do, I click this and it's auto imported right here, and we invoke it and we pass our to do right there. Now this to do have the ID and everything, and when we come to the to do trace, when we try to update it, we destructure the values, and because we are clever, we use the ID to pass in as a parameter. We pass it in our path, and in our body of the request we don't include the ID because that will be rejected by Joy. Therefore we just pass the necessary values, and this will not throw an error. Okay, but when we try to add it directly like this, and this is what was happening, that to do dot underscore ID will be rejected by Joy. Therefore we can't just do it. So yeah, you can see the implementation is kind of different. Awesome. Now this is for the case when we have an ID. Else we will do this. We will add the to do like that. But I also told you that we will fix the date on the UI. So what we can do is that we can say const new to do will be equal to, we will spread the properties of to do. So this is from our state. We'll spread the properties of the to do state, and we will set the date to be new date. Instead of depending on the backend default, we can set our new date here, which will be more precise than the backend one. I don't know why the backend one doesn't work correctly. And then now right here, instead of passing the to do, we'll pass this new to do with the updated date. So right here we'll say new to do, just like that. So when I save this, now this makes sense. If to do dot underscore ID exists, that means we are trying to update the to do. So we dispatch update to do with the to do, and then we'll use the ID on our parameter to get that specific to do from the database and update that specific to do like that, and the process continues. Else we dispatch the new to do with the updated date. And this is cool. This is all we need to do to update a to do. But now we also need to check right here and show the correct message whether we are updating or adding a new one. So instead of returning this directory, what we can do is to perform a check right here. We can say if to do dot underscore ID exists, that means that we are trying to update the to do. So this is coming from the state at the top. That means that we are trying to update the to do. Therefore we can just include this update task. Else, so I include a full colon, add task. So this is all we need to do to change the text in our button. Okay, so yeah, that is it. That is how we can implement update to do, and hopefully it should work. So let's test it out. Okay, let's refresh. Now you can see right here we have add task, and when we say new task, this doesn't have an ID in it. Okay, so the state for this one will be, let me show you. Let me come to app.js right here. So the state for that will be task and is complete. There is no ID in it. So that way we know that we are adding a new task. Okay, but now when we click this is new to do, it already exists, it has an ID. I click update. Now this has an ID in it. Okay, because we are this is from the database. It already have an ID, it has a version, and it has the task and the other properties. So now this has an ID in it, and therefore we can dynamically display the text right here to update task, and also we dispatch the correct action creator because it has an ID. So right here, if to do.id, we dispatch update to do. Okay, and then we'll also make use of that ID to pass it to our param right here. like to our path, our endpoint. And when we pass it to our endpoint, we will be able to read it from our endpoint in request.params.id. So we will be able to do something like this. To do dot find by id. Okay, this is the delete. Sorry. We'll be able to do dot find by id and update. We will update and get back the updated to do and update the state correctly. Okay, cool. Now let's like continue. So this is a new to do. Let's say this is an old to do now, and we try to click update task updated. This is okay, an old to do is supposed to be an old to do, but there we go, it's working. Like we get the correct message here because we correctly updated the state in our slice, and this is okay. So you can also like update. This is an old to do update. Now this is an old to do task updated. When we add a new one, task added, so they are not colliding each other, they are working correct. And you can see now we are correctly updating the date right here, added a few seconds ago. Awesome. So this is now working correctly, and this is amazing. The only now thing that remains is the delete functionality, and we will have completed the CRUD operations in Redux Toolkit and React with a Node.js backend. So I'll see you in the next section for us to implement delete. In this section, I want us to cover the last CRUD operation, which is delete. So we have covered adding a task to the database, reading the task from the database, updating a task, and now I want us to delete a task. So let's first take a look at the API endpoint right here. So this is our endpoint for deleting a to-do. It's super simple. So again, we will be passing an ID to the path right here or the URL, and then what we'll do with this ID, we will find for a particular to-do using the ID. So request.params.id, and we receive the to-do right here. And then right here we will say if the to-do does not exist, then we will return an error for to-do not found. If it exists, then we'll go ahead and delete that specific to-do from the database. And what we'll get back from this request right here, find by ID and delete, is the deleted to-do, and we can send it to the UI so that we can use it to like update the state and exclude it from our array of to-dos. So let's just go to the to-dos slice right here and create an action creator for deleting a specific to-do. So after the update to-do right here, we are just going to add another action creator to delete a to-do. Okay, so right here, I'll just say export const delete to-do, just like that. Let's use camel casing, and this will be equal to, we make use of create async bank, like that. We invoke it, and the first parameter is the action type. So the action type right here will be to-dos stroke delete to-do, and then the second parameter will be an async action or an async function, which is also our payload creator. So right here we'll say async, and the first parameter is usually like the argument or the parameter, which is essentially like the body of our request. So when deleting a to-do, we will be needing an ID, okay? And we don't need to pass all the data like we did with update. We just need the ID. So right here we will receive our ID, or we can just use _ID to avoid any confusion. So yeah, just like the same. And then right here I will use a comma, and now the second parameter right here is the reject with value, so that we can like customize our error message. So I'll say reject with value right there, and then this will be an arrow function, and in here we can now have a try and catch block. So I'll say try and then right here catch. We'll have access to the error object, and right here we can log the error to the console, and also we can make use of reject with value. So when we return like this, we will be adding it to the action.payload. So reject with value, I invoke these, and we'll pass in error dot response dot data. So response is written response dot data. Cool. So that is our error. Now the request that we'll be making right here using Axios is the delete request, and we'll get back a response, and the response is the deleted to do, as we have seen right here. So the response that we are getting back is the to do that we actually delete, so that we can use it to update the state accordingly. Okay, so right here we'll get back a response, and we can store it in a constant. So this will be equal to await axios dot delete, and we invoke these, and right here we should pass the path. So base URL, and then plus to do's stroke, and then we also need to like include the ID, which is I think we included it as underscore ID right here. This underscore ID, we make use of it right here. Okay, cool. So for the delete request, we just need the path, but the path should have that particular ID of the to do that we are trying to delete. So I will save that, and now we can one more thing, we need to return response.data right here. Okay, dot data. I'm so bad at like spelling this. I think that is correct. So I will save that, and now we should also like handle the state pending, fulfilled, and rejected. So I'll do what we have been doing. I'll just duplicate these three, the first one, the second, and the third. I will use Alt Shift bottom arrow. Let's change this to delete to do. So instead of update, we will have okay, what we can do actually, so I can click here, use Alt, click here, and then I will scroll, use Alt, click here, so that I can update in multiple places. Now I will delete these and change it to delete. So that is much easier. So we can confirm the rest, and they have changed to delete. Awesome. Now when the status is pending, so we should change like delete to do status right here to pending, and we change this to be an empty string, and then we go to the next one when the status is fulfilled. Now when we delete, we will not make use of the map method, we will make use of the filter method. Okay, so right here we will make use of the filter method, and what we want to do is to exclude the to do that we deleted, okay, from our list of array. So right here, let me rename this to the current to do's, and we will do state.todos.filter. We get a to do each time. So the check that we'll perform right here is to do.id. Right here, instead of equal, we'll say not equal to action.payload.id, and I'll remove this. So what will happen is that if this check is true, this to do will be returned to our current to do's array. Else, if it's not true, then that to do will not be returned to our current to do's. And when it will not be true is when this to do.id is actually equal to action.payload.id, and that will be our deleted to do. Okay, But when this check is true, when this is not equal to this, that means that that check is true. Then all those other to-dos will be in our current to-dos, and we can use them to update our array of to-dos right here. So I'll say current to-dos, just like that, and then we will update this one to be an empty string and the delete to-do status to be success, because now we have like actually deleted the to-do and updated the state accordingly. And then now right here we will default this to empty string, we will default this to empty string. So we are like clearing the state for this one, and now we update the state for this one to rejected, just in case of an error, and we will update the state to this one to action dot payload. And this is it. This is how we can like handle the state. Now what we need to do is to dispatch our action creator, which is our delete to do. So we need to dispatch this action creator. I'll save this file, and we will dispatch this action creator in our list to do's component, because this is where we actually have like the delete button. Okay, cool. So right here we will add an onClick event. So let me add onClick, and when we click this, we will call a helper method. So I'll use an arrow function right here. We will call handle delete. So we haven't created this function yet, but we are going to create it in a minute. We invoke this, and what we will pass is to do dot underscore ID. So we need this ID of this specific to do that we are trying to delete, so that we can like actually delete it from the backend. Okay, so we call handle delete to do dot ID. Now let's create that particular function at the top here. We will say const handle delete, and we'll set this to be equal to an arrow function which will receive that to do dot underscore ID. So we can just pass it as underscore ID to be consistent, but it doesn't like actually matter. And then right here we like dispatch. So this is why we'll perform the dispatch, and we will dispatch the delete to do action creator. So delete to do. So it's not being like being auto imported. I will invoke this, and I'll pass the underscore ID right here. And what I will do is that I'll import manually our action creator. So right here I'll import delete to do. Okay, so I'm using underscore ID just to be consistent. So what will happen is that when we click this button, we will call handle delete, and we will pass in the to do dot underscore ID. We will receive that ID right here, and we dispatch delete to do with that ID. So we will be able to receive this ID in our action creator. We will receive it right here. Once we receive it, we will be able to pass it to our path right here, or our endpoint, and these will be received by our backend. So we'll be able to receive the ID as request.params.id. So we will first use it to check if the to-do exists or not, like this, and then we will actually delete the to-do, and then we will receive the deleted to-do back. So in our to-do slice, after the promise is accomplished, we will receive the to-do in our response.data right here, and we will add it to action.payload. And then in action.payload, we will be able to like read the ID of that particular to do. So I'm scrolling. We'll be able to receive the ID of that specific to do through action.payload.underscore ID, and we will perform this check. So we'll be able to exclude it using the filter method and update the state accordingly, so it will be removed from our UI automatically. Awesome. And that is like the process that is happening. So let's test this one out and see if it will work. Okay, so I will save this, and let's go to our UI. Now this new one, I will try to delete it. So I'll click delete, and nothing happens. Let me refresh. Now I'll click this new one, and a task was deleted and it's actually gone. It's no longer on our list right here. So this is working, and we can delete now our to-dos. So this is an old to-do. I delete it. It's gone. We have new to do again. I delete it. It's gone. We have new to do again. I delete it. It's gone. And now I can like delete all the to-dos from the database. Now when I refresh, we should not have any to do on our list. So it's loading and nothing. You have 0 tasks. So we have like performed all the CRUD operations. We can create a to-do. Maybe called let's say React again, add task. So you can see now we are adding a new task. Add task, it's processing. Task added, it's here. We can update code React and RTK. Now this changed to update task. We click on it, it's submitted, task updated, and we now actually have code React and RTK. We can add another one called JS. We add, but maybe we didn't want it, so we can delete it. It's deleted. Awesome. So this is working, and we cannot even submit an empty task. So if we try, task is not allowed to be empty. We are performing that backend data validation. Task length must be at least 3 characters long. So this is it, and we have accomplished this particular project. I hope you have learned something, and if you did, please give this video a thumbs up, and also support my channel and subscribe. Okay, so please subscribe to support my channel, and I'll be really happy for that. So I'll see you in the next one. That is it for this course, and thank you for watching.